What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. And today we're going to be doing the Swordcraft reveals. I'm sorry that I'm a bit late in doing all this stuff. If you watched in the previous video on my update, I was very behind on a lot of things with everything that's been going on. And I also realized today that they already posted the listing of all the cards and everything, but we're still going to go over them and review all the other cards so we can get a good take on what everything's going on in this new set. But starting off, we have our first card. We have Balion Sovereign Light. So it's a 3-cost 3/3. You can evolve for 1 and it has Ward, but when it comes into play fanfare, you may put an Ethereum Great Tree into the field or the EX area. So it looks like the one recurring thing that's going to be happening in set 7 is this Ethereum Great Tree. So if you have any beast-like creatures, they're going to be following with this Great Tree. So I think there's some deep lore into it with an Ethereum Great Tree. If you guys know anything about it, let me know in the comments below and I can do some deep diving about it. But I think it's very interesting that set 7 kind of revolves around these tokens. And then figuring out what the Ethereum Great Tree does, it's a 1-cost amulet, and when this card leaves the field, draw a card and then discard a card. You can also activate for 1 play point to put this card to your graveyard. So this amulet is like a Paper Shikigami, just unfortunately doesn't have like the stats of a Paper Shikigami or get any bonus effects, but it looks like what the deck is going to be revolving around is using this token to use for other abilities and other cards. And then we have the Sovereign Light Evolve, so he turns into a 4/4, he still has Ward, but on Evolve you look at the top 4 cards of your deck. From among them, you may put up to 2 Natura cards into the EX area and put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. You can also activate by banishing 2 Ethereum Great Trees on the field, and you could choose a Natura follower on your field and you give it +2 attack. So like I said before, we're really going to be using our tokens to really help for our gameplay, and we're not really going to be using it to use the 1 play point to put it into the cemetery to draw a card and discard, unless you really need to and your hand's kind of bricky, but most of the time we're going to be using those Ethereum Great Trees to be put onto the field to either be banished or to be used in other effects. Alright, and next up we have Miss Olina Forest Princess. So she's a 6-cost 4/6, show you a storm, and when she comes into play fanfare, you choose a Princess Strike in your graveyard and you change its cost to 0 and play it. You can also activate by putting 2 Ethereum Great Trees into the field into the engaged state, and this card gets +3 attack and add 2 to your leader's health. Alright, so it looks like Princess has got some support here. That's pretty nice. And you also have the fact that you can make Princess Strike a free card in your graveyard. And then also on top of that, if you want to put this in your set 7 deck, you can put those 2 Ethereum Great Trees into the engaged state and you get +3 attack and then heal 2. Alright, and then we have Tsubaki of the Demon Blade. So she's a 3-cost 4/3, and if there are 10 or more Swordcraft followers in your graveyard, this card gets Storm. Also, when she comes into play fanfare, if there are 5 or more Swordcraft followers in your graveyard, choose an enemy follower on the field and destroy it. So this is the second time we're seeing Tsubaki. I think the last time we saw her, she was a starter exclusive card, or at least she was a legendary from set 1. I don't know either or which it was. I know I got her out of the starter deck, but I'm pretty sure she's a card in set 1 that was just pretty nice, just to either remove a card off the field or to gain Storm. Well, now we have a 3-cost card that just has Storm if you have 10 or more Swordcraft followers in the cemetery, and then if you have 5 or more, you can just go ahead and destroy something too. Alright, but moving on, we have Leo the Crescent Blade. So he's a 2-cost 1/3, you can evolve him for 2, and while this card is unengaged, this gets Intimidate and Aura, and at the start of your end phase, choose a follower on the enemy field and deal 1 damage to it. Alright, so this card is pretty decent in Swordcraft, I'd like to say so, just because when you leave it unengaged, it can't be swung into with a sail, and you can't target it with abilities because it says Intimidate and Aura. So it's going to sit there and it's going to ping your opponent's followers for 1 each time, and if your opponent's going to match your freak in terms of aggression, you can just go ahead and get rid of the early game followers and then move on. Alright, so we have Leo Evolve. So he turns into a 2/4, but he still has the 2 abilities of Intimidate and Aura as long as he's unengaged. And then he still has that ability at the end phase, you can ping a follower for 1, but on Evolve you choose an enemy leader or a follower on the enemy field and deal 2 damage to it. Alright, so this on Evolve ability is pretty good because this is a total of 4 damage as long as this card sticks on the field, which it should since it has Intimidate and Aura, because there's no way in the early game your opponent's going to have some crazy board wipe that's going to clear everything off the board in the early game like that. But this is a total of 4 damage, which is pretty good because you evolve it for 2 and then you get to swing. Alright, and next up we have King's Might. So it's a 3-cost spell, and when you play this card, put 2 Ethereum Great Trees from the field into the engaged state, subtract 2 from this card's cost, and when you play this card, if there is a Balion Sovereign Light on your field, subtract 1 from this card's cost. You can choose a follower on the enemy field and deal 4 damage to it. Alright, so the card becomes a 1-cost if you put the 2 Ethereum Great Trees in the engaged state, so it becomes a 1-cost, but if you also have the Balion Sovereign Light legendary on the field, it becomes a free card that does 4 damage to an enemy follower. But moving forward, we have Troya Thunder of Hagelberg. So she's a 3-cost 2/2. You can evolve her for 1 and she has Bane. And looking at the Troya Evolve, so she does turn into a 3/3 and she still has Bane, but on Evolve, you choose a follower on the enemy field, deal 2 damage to it, and if there are 2 or more assassin followers in your graveyard, you destroy it instead. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So there are a couple of assassin cards that are just kind of like vanilla or just not too many that stick out. But I like it when they do throw in a little bit of some assassin support in here. If you can really rock an assassin deck in set 7, that'd be pretty impressive. But I'm looking forward to the future to see if that deck actually comes together. Alright, next up we have Val's Champion Deadeye, so he's a 2-cost 2/3. You can activate for 1 play point and engage this card. You can choose an enemy leader or a follower on the enemy field and deal damage to it equal to this card's attack. You can also activate by using 3 play points and engaging this card, and you can choose an amulet on the enemy field and banish it. Okay, interesting card. So no fanfares here. So you're going to be spending 2 for this follower, and then you're also going to be using 1 play point to engage it and deal 2 damage to something. Or you can use 3 play points if you're going up against like Havencraft or a deck that has amulets in it, and you can go ahead and banish an amulet off the enemy field. Alright, and we have Princess's Strike, so it's a 1-cost quick spell, so you choose enemy follower and deal 2 damage to it. If there's a Mistolina Forest Princess on your field, you deal 6 damage instead. Alright, so if you have been paying attention, it looks like when you use a legendary after you have already used this card, or if this card is in your graveyard from other means and stuff like that, this card does a total of 6 damage to something while you're also swinging for storm damage with the legendary. Alright, and next up we have Swift Tigress, so she's a 3-cost 4/3. When she comes into play fanfare, you put an Ethereal Great Tree on the field into the engage state, and this card gets Storm. So it looks like unlike what Swordcraft is wanting to do outside of the Balion that's going to be banishing the Ethereal Great Tree, it looks like the other cards are going to be putting these Ethereal Great Trees into the engage state, just so these cards can get abilities. Alright, and then next up we have Lupine Axeman, so he's a 2-cost 2/3. When he comes into play fanfare, you may put an Ethereal Great Tree onto the field or the EX area. You can also activate by engaging this card and putting any number of Ethereal Great Trees from the field into the engage state. And then you can choose a follower on the enemy field and deal damage to equal to the number of Ethereal Great Trees that were engaged. So if you're a really smart player, you don't want to fill up your field with Ethereal Great Trees unless you're going to be able to banish them with the legendary, so you don't want to fill up too much, but it looks like you can play this card and at least get 1 damage out by putting the Ethereal Great Tree onto the field. But moving on, we have Dauntless Commander, so she's a 2-cost 2/3 and you can evolve her for 1. And then we have the Commander Evolve, so she turns to a 3/4, but last words put this card into your EX area. Alright, so I think this card is going to be a good combination with Kagemitsu. And next up we have Tempered Aether, so it's a 1-cost spell. You put an Ethereal Great Tree onto the field and then you put an Ethereal Great Tree into the EX area. So if you're going to be playing the Ethereal Great Tree line, it's not going to be bad playing this on turn 1 to go ahead and get a tree onto the field and into the EX area so you can get things rolling. Alright, and lastly we have Elegance in Action, so it's a 1-cost spell, and when this card is discarded from your hand, you choose a follower on the enemy field and you engage it. But when you play this card, you can choose a follower on the enemy field and then engage it and then you draw a card. So I think this is going to be one of the cards that's going to be used for Quick Draw Maven. So Quick Draw Maven is going to make you pitch a card to deal damage to a follower on the field. But then when you pitch this card, you can go ahead and engage another follower so you can swing at it with Quick Draw Maven. Alright, and then we have our Tsubaki UR. It looks absolutely beautiful. If you're an enjoyer of Tsubaki, I like her legendary from when she was in the starter deck, and I'm liking that she has an alternate art here. But alrighty soldiers, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I know that the cards are already revealed, but we're still going to be doing them for the rest of the week and then through next week, where there won't really be that much content until the set comes out, because I will be doing the Inverse Academy episodes for each class. But make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight, and make sure you're safe in whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do. Just to get you away. What I got to do.